You found a photo of yourself from 10 years ago today? Maybe you didn't mean to. Maybe it just appeared. You looked at it for 2 seconds and you felt it. Something cold, something with no name. Then you put your phone down and moved on. But it didn't move on. And from wherever it went, it has been running your life ever since. Here is the part no one tells you. Your brain has known you are going to die since you were a small child. And that knowledge is so catastrophic, so genuinely incompatible with daily functioning, that your brain built an entire invisible system to make sure you never have to look at it directly. That system is not passive. It is making your decisions right now. It chose your career. It drives your opinions. It decides who you call a friend and who you call an enemy. And it has never once asked for your permission. Ernest Becker spent his career figuring out why humans behave the way they do. His answer, which won him a Pulitzer Prize, was brutal in its simplicity. Everything you do is ultimately about death. Not metaphorically, literally. The awareness that you will one day stop existing is so overwhelming that the entire architecture of your personality, your beliefs, your ambitions, your need to matter, exists to muffle that single fact. He called it the denial of death. And 3 psychologists decided to test whether he was right. Jeff Greenberg, Sheldon Solomon, and Tom Pischinsky took a group of judges and asked half of them to write briefly about their own mortality before ruling on a case. The other half answered unrelated questions. Then both groups set bail for the exact same file. The judges who thought about death set bail 9 times higher than the ones who didn't. Same case, same evidence, 9 times. Because when your brain gets a glimpse of the countdown, it does one thing immediately. It grips the rules of your world harder. Defend the culture, defend the tribe, punish those who break the order. Because an ordered world feels like a world that makes sense. And a world that makes sense feels like a world where dying doesn't mean nothing. They called this terror management theory. The idea is clean. You cannot face the terror of death directly, so your brain converts it into something it can work with. It becomes tribalism. It becomes ideology. It becomes the reason you argued with a stranger online for 40 minutes over something that will not matter to you in 5 years. That argument wasn't about the topic. It was about the countdown. It always is. Viktor Frankl survived Nazi concentration camps and spent the rest of his life making a single point. Humans don't search for meaning because life is good. They search for meaning because death is certain. Purpose is not a luxury. It is the brain's primary strategy for making death feel like it fits inside something larger. Every goal you have, every person you love, everything you have ever created or built or tried, all of it is an answer to the same question your brain asks on a loop, beneath everything else, every single day. If this is going to end, what made it count? Here is the part that should bother you. The system works by keeping you comfortable. It buries the countdown just deep enough that you don't feel it most of the time. And the cost of that comfort is distance. Distance from what you actually want. Distance from what you would do if you knew, not abstractly but really knew, that time was finite. Irvin Yalom spent decades with terminally ill patients. The regrets were almost always the same. Not things they had done. Things they hadn't done because they assumed there was more time. The career risk not taken. The conversation never started. The creative work waiting for the right moment that never came. The countdown was always running. They just couldn't hear it. You have a version of this. Everyone does. Some ambition parked for later. Some conversation you keep skipping. Some version of yourself you have been waiting to become, once conditions are slightly better than they are right now. That isn't patience. That is the system doing its job. Keeping the fact of death at exactly the right distance. Far enough that you stay functional. Close enough that you keep reaching for things that feel like they will outlast you. Becker believed that the only way out was through. That actually looking at the countdown, not obsessing over it but seeing it clearly, was the beginning of real choice. Not the choices made to prove something. Not the opinions defended because losing them feels like losing ground. The choice is made because you know what the time actually costs. You found a photo of yourself from 10 years ago. You looked at it for 2 seconds. You felt something cold, something with no name, and then you moved on. That feeling was the most honest thing your brain has ever shown you. The question was never whether the countdown is running. The question is whether you are going to keep looking away.